Hello, I'm Jonasz Rewiński and you're watching Break the Fake. They make them, we break them, and tell you everything you need to know. Russia continues to surprise with unexpected personnel decisions. Following Moscow, migrants from India began to be brought en masse to St. Petersburg. Entire teams of janitors from South Asia appeared in the Russian city with housing, food and salaries of about $1,200. The social package is such that some locals can only look on enviously from beneath the stairwell. Now, the story is made even more charming by the fact that some of the newly minted janitors claim that they used to work as IT specialists, including at Microsoft. Now, their career path is truly impressive, from hunting software bugs to hunting very real bugs, I suppose. But there is fresh air, physical activity and no deadlines except clean it up by the morning. Could the crunch at software developers be so bad you would rather end up mopping up the neighborhood in St. Petersburg?
Чистотой в Петербурге будут следить, в том числе и специалисты из Индии. Бригада из 17 дворников появилась в одном из жилищных агентств Приморского района. Перед тем, как приступить к уборке, все они прошли курс обучения, в первую очередь русскому языку. Трудоустроены по контракту полного сопровождения, то есть работодатель ведет иностранцев от подачи заявления, въезда в Россию и до конца договора, который заключен на 1 год. А рабочие обеспечены спецодеждой и жильем.
Мы живем в районе Черной речки. Компания предоставляет очень хорошие условия проживания. Живем в квартире, которая обеспечивает нам и безопасность, и комфорт. Никаких проблем нет, все хорошо.
Basically, I do in a company like a Microsoft and some new tools like AI, ChatGPT, etc. And my main role is to serving my company as a developer.
According to the Fontanka newspaper, Indian workers are already actively cleaning the streets of the Primorsky district, and they are not doing so incognito either. Their uniforms are adorned with stripes bearing the flags of India and Russia. And on the one hand, you've got to admit that, there is some charming humility to the guy who says that no work is bad as long as it is done properly. So it's coding and then cleaning up the streets, nothing of that is going to feel bad to him. But then remember that Russia isn't exactly a migrant paradise. If our IT specialist wanted to work as a courier or a taxi driver in St. Petersburg instead, well, too bad. Migrants have been essentially banned from those types of job, with prohibition extending into 2026. The Moscow Times reports that as of January 2025, 49 Russian regions, including occupied territories of Ukraine, by the way, had already been running similar bans across various professions. And let's not forget the violence. Since the Crocus City Hall terrorist attack, raids against Central Asian migrants have been on the rise, while Russian nationalist xenophobic gangs continue to run rampant, while the cops often choose to look the other way. But again, if people want to believe Russia is a migrant-friendly country, then fine, let them. Just don't say we didn't warn you. While Russians are getting used to teams of janitors from India working outside their windows and tricolour patches on their work jackets, a real horror is gripping them for a completely different reason. No, it's not because of a lack of snow, removal of equipment, or a shortage of personnel. What is frightening is something else: the growth of nuclear energy in India. It is this topic that has forced Kremlin mouthpiece Vladimir Solovyov to switch from the threatening the West mode to alarmist frog in the swamp mode. And yeah, Vlad wouldn't like this. I believe he actually considers the word frog or toad to be super offensive. He used it once against the Ukrainian official with the kind of bile usually reserved for way stronger expletives. So yeah, an alarmist frog it is then.
Я посмотрел, Индия, мы все время говорим о Китае, Индия ставит задачу к 2047 году 100 гигаватт ядерных мощностей добавить. Просто когда мы говорим о современной энергетике, о современном моменте, мы многократно говорили о том, что сейчас все строится на том, что ты производишь. То есть новые технологии, искусственный интеллект требует колоссальных мощностей. И вы как раз... А это невозможно без денег. И вы говорили то, что у Китая же, да, там планы, от которых мы, вежливо говоря, стоим, а тут еще и Индия.
У них 430 гигаватт в этом году и в следующем более 560 гигаватт.
А у нас?
У нас в этом году 1,7, ну и в следующем так где-то 2-3.
Каждые по 2
ну, так,
гигаватта максимум.
Я просто к тому, чтобы вы понимали, не только Китай нас готов обойти на повороте, но и Индия колоссально... Притом Индия хочет ядерной энергетики, в которой мы пионеры, в которой мы лучшие в мире.
Ну, смотрите.
The irony of the situation is that India is not a competitor for the Russian economy right now, but rather a lifeline to the Russian economy. It is thanks to India's purchases of Russian oil that the Kremlin can still talk about stability and build castles in the sky as it goes on about the development of high technologies, in particular related to nuclear energy. There is one small detail that Solovyev conveniently forgot to mention. If India suddenly decides that it is cheaper and more profitable to buy oil elsewhere, the talk of a nuclear breakthrough in Russia will quickly turn into a history lesson. Then it will turn out that the only stable Russian-Indian project is not nuclear power plants, but street sweepers with brooms. It seems that Indian janitors do not scare Russians. They are silent and useful. But India, which is ceasing to be just an oil buyer and is becoming a technological player, is already a serious blow to the television picture of the world, because then we have to admit one simple thing: without foreign money, Russia's nuclear greatness exists only in Solovyev's monologues. India has a young, ambitious society that dreams big and can deliver results. It has a bright future and it knows how to get there. Well, Russia has none of those things, squandering its wealth on violence and aggression. Russia is once again offering the world profitable economic cooperation, this time wrapped up in the Suez Canal and nuclear energy. Formally, this involves support for Russian projects in the Suez Canal economic zone and the construction of the El Dabaa nuclear power plant in Egypt. Informally, however, it is yet another attempt to gain a foothold in a strategic region under the guise of doing business. As they say, nothing personal, just geopolitics. The idea of creating a Russian industrial zone near the Suez Canal looks almost innocent on paper. Land granted by Egypt, preferential terms, jobs, cooperation, you know, all that stuff. But the Kremlin sees much more than warehouses and factories in such projects. For Moscow, this is a long-term foothold in close proximity to one of key hubs for world trade. At the same time, Russia is actively promoting the construction of the El Dabaa nuclear power plant under the auspices of the company Rosatom. Nuclear projects are a special genre of Russian foreign policy, you see. It is not just electricity, but a contract for decades to come: fuel, maintenance, loans, technology, and staff training. In fact, the customer country receives not only a power plant, but also a lifetime subscription to Russia's presence. Alternative energy solutions and other standards are politely pushed aside so as not to interfere with the great nuclear friendship. Works are in fact already underway in Egypt, with the first reactor pressure vessel already in place as of November 2025. But wherever the Russians go, soon a different kind of pressure may appear. That's just the way things go. The strengthening of Russia's presence in the Suez Canal zone is neither accidental nor a gesture of goodwill. It is part of a systematic strategy to establish footholds in critical points of global trade under the guise of economics. Where ships sail, political interests will soon follow. When Moscow talks about economic cooperation, it is worth reading the fine print carefully. It usually says political influence, sanctions circumvention, and long-term dependence, all included. And the Suez Canal and nuclear energy are not just window dressing in this story. The main show is in fact as old as the world itself. Business as a pretext, geopolitics as the main goal. And with this, we conclude this edition of Break the Fake. Please stay with us here on TVP World for more latest news and updates.